Hi everybody, this is Kyle Baley here, also known as the Coding Hillbilly. I'm going to be doing a series of screencasts on brownfield application development. Initially it'll be setting up the ecosystem for them. Brownfield applications are the applications that already exist. They've already started development for some time, but they're not quite legacy applications. They're still actively developed. Maybe they haven't even been released to production yet, but they've reached the point where they're cumbersome to work with. The development team's having problems adding features to them. They're having to deal with a lot of infrastructure during deployment, and there's a lot of back and forth as you're checking stuff into source control with conflicts. So with that, our first cast is going to be on source control, on version control, setting up your application so that the source control system works for you and does not get in your way. Okay? Opening up the root folder here on our sample application, you'll notice, boom, there's a whole bunch of code. What we're going to do is kind of partition this out so that it's a little less overwhelming and a little easier to manage. What we want to do is make the application more maintainable, and we're going to start source control. So I'm creating a source folder right at the root, and within that, an app folder and a test folder. Okay. In our app folder, we'll create one folder for each project. And in our case, there is only one project. Okay. Now this may seem like a lot of work at first, but it does pay off, and it's not that difficult to do. Okay. Go back to our root, select everything except for the source folder and except for our solution files, and we move them into the project folder that we just created. Our root folder is now pretty clean. We're going to dirty it up a little bit here, but for the most part, as soon as the developer opens this up, it's pretty clear where they're supposed to go. Straight to the solution file, which is where we're going to go on. First thing we've noticed is that now the solution file no longer knows where to find the projects for it. Okay, so we've got to change those mappings. We're going to remove the existing references to the projects and or to our single project, and then add them up. Okay, compile our application, and whoops, we have a namespace that does not exist. Okay, reason being, we've got a third-party dependency in our application, and it's on application blocks, which probably gives you an idea of when this application was first written. Okay, what we want to be able to do with our third-party dependencies is roll them all up into our source control system. We want a developer to be able to download the code, check out the code, get the latest version, and just go. Not set up any third-party packages, not run an install package to install the grid control or the user control, or not have to download the latest version of nhibernate or go to the corporate directory structure and find nhibernate. Everything you need should be in your source control for that project. Okay? So for this reference, we're going to create at our root a lib folder. The lib folder is going to contain all third-party assemblies that your project references that you don't have direct control over. Okay? In our case, it's under program files, Microsoft application blocks. We move it out of program files and into the application, into the lib folder. And of course, we're going to have to update the reference to it in our projects. Again, this might be a lot of work at first, but you'll see at the end here where it'll pay off. We now compile, and at this point, that's the only indication we have that everything is working. We don't have any other process in place. Okay? Now, we've got the application compiling. Let's get it into source control. I'm using subversion. The the actual source control system you use will depend on the needs of your team. I'd recommend Subversion. It's pretty low friction in general, lower than most other ones. The way we're going to add this to our Subversion repository is first to check out. We're going to put it into the trunk here. We're going to first check out the trunk to this folder. So let's do a checkout. It's nice enough to remember the last time I checked out. We're going to check out Twilight Stars demo, which is the repository, and we're going to check out the trunk. This isn't actually going to check anything out because there's nothing in the trunk. But what it will do is link my Twilight Stars folder up at the top here to the trunk folder in the source control system. So that when I do things like add the library to source control, it's going to know which repository to add it to. Okay? Ditto for my solution file, which I also need to add. I also need to add in the source files here. I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm using Visual SVN add to Subversion. Okay, so I've added the source code, the project, to source control as well. Now, the reason I did it with Visual SVN is because it's a little bit smarter on what needs to be included and what shouldn't be included. Okay, you can see here it hasn't added resharper files. We don't want those included in Subversion. It hasn't added anything that's not directly included in the project, like the bin and the object. Yeah, these resharper files as well. Now, Tortoise SVN, of course, is smart enough to determine that as well, but I'm being sort of overly cautious in trusting Visual SVN, which is not free, but certainly worth it. We now have all of our files ready to be added to source control. We do a commit, which will actually do the physical process of adding them to the source control repository. This will do the actual copying of it. And when we're done here, we're going to have a project that a developer can download onto a brand new machine and run the application, or compile the application. No need to go find the application blocks or any other third-party dependencies on it. And we're going to prove that by deleting the project and starting over. Okay? So, we've deleted the project. Let's create a new folder to hold the project. We're going to simulate a brand new developer. I'm going to call it Moo, just because. And he's going to use this to hold the application files when he's working. So we're going to do a checkout from the trunk into this folder. And you'll notice when we start getting the files from it, we've got a lib folder and a source folder. When we open up the solution file, no longer will the third-party dependency, or application block, be referenced in the program files, but it will be referenced from our lib folder, the Microsoft application blocks. Build the application, and again, as far as we know, all is well. Okay. In upcoming episodes, we'll talk about other things that we'll add to our source control repository and how we can manage merge check-ins specifically with Subversion, so as not to stop developers in the middle of their work. Hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll catch you all next time.